Good morning and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11 and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at some pitching for today, the 5th of April. It is Saturday. We do have two 7-game slates in front of us here, with the first one being the afternoon and then obviously the evening main slate as well. Reminder, this is a first look at the pitching options on the slate. I do go more in depth for the members at DFS Army and in our chat on Discord as well. This is just meant to give us a first look at those pitching options, give us some names to kind of dig into as we try to finalize our pool before the games get started. I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you do play on FanDuel, I would cut my pool into a half or even a third sometimes, just because you do not have to be as creative. Pricing for stacking isn't quite as tight. It should allow you to use one of the top handful of options on a slate, no problem. With that said, we'll kind of take a look here at both slates quickly. Talk about some of the props that stand out to me for some of these pitchers. We also have, a start or two for some players at this point. Um, Mostly the two would be for the Cubs and Dodgers, but still, we do have some data to kind of look at, some opposing offense data as well. So let's kind of dig in. We'll start with the day slate. This slate for pitching isn't enjoyable. One of the big things is we have some weather issues. We have some cold weather. Um, and then we have some rain, some delay possibilities. Uh, just some rough April scenarios, really, is what it comes down to. So taking a look at the pitching on this slate, some of the props that do stand out to me. Uh, Between Ober and Arrighetti, Ober's a minus 125 favorite. He is plus 160 to get the W. His K prop's at 5.5, juices on the under. Arrighetti's K prop is 5.5 with juice on the over. Arrighetti far more impressive in his first start against a tougher Mets squad. Shut them down. Ober, not impressive. St. Louis got to him. I believe I pointed out on the video prior to that first start for Ober, last year for his opening start, he got absolutely lit up as well. Starting to wonder if maybe he's just a slow starter to a season. Certainly possible. Here, I just kind of switched over to our research station at DFS Army just to look. And on this particular slate, these two pitchers actually had the highest K rate last season at about 27% each. So they do stand out, quite a bit. I would say that the overall Minnesota lineup probably strikes out a little bit more than Houston's lineup at this point, but I think both pitchers have to be in play, uh, especially on this particular slate where I think the pitching options are kind of weak. Looking at some of the weather here, biggest one here, Wrigley again. Great pitcher environment, cold, wind blowing in. So we go to guys like Boyd, who I've always liked, um, even though he does have some struggles. Boyd and the Cubs are minus 122 favorites. This game total is 7 with juice on the under. Boyd's plus 190 to get the W. Pivetta is plus 200. Boyd doesn't have a K prop yet, but Pivetta's is 5.5 with juice on the over. Uh, I like both pitchers. I am going to lean Pivetta. Didn't really rack up strikeouts against the Braves. but avoided the home run ball. That's been his kind of Achilles heel in the past. Um, Walks and leading to home runs, etc. But with the wind blowing in, cold weather, I really love the upside of Pavetta in this spot, even as an underdog. He's still plus 200 to get the W, which is better odds than Arrighetti. Uh, Surprisingly well behind guys like Nola, who takes on the Dodgers. Nola's plus 135. That one kind of stood out to me as a shocker. But, these first two games are games that I really like the pitching for. A little more volatile in the Houston Minnesota game, but there's upside, and then obviously the fact that it's going to be super cold. Uh, Obviously, one has wind blowing in, the other one has wind blowing out. A couple of the other guys on this slate that intrigue me a little bit. Eduardo Rodriguez. If you can avoid the walks, I think you'd have he would have had a strong first start on the season. It was against a tough Cubs squad who got to him for a couple home runs, but he is plus 145 to get the W. K prop is just 4.5, juices on the over. Um, Game total is at 9, which is a little frustrating, but I think he just kind of feels like one that we want to include in our pool as kind of a sneaky upside option. It does come with a ton of volatility, but I just feel like he has more upside than a guy like Marcus Stroman, who's minus 166 favorite. But he just doesn't have a ton of K upside. Uh, Another name that I'm considering here is Michael Wacha. It's tough to pick on Baltimore. I get it. But we look at the weather here, blowing in at 19 miles an hour, temperature in the 40s. It's going to be solid weather for pitchers. And I would rather put my trust in Michael Wacha than Tomoyuki Shigano, who left last start with some cramping in his hand, which is kind of weird. Um, but I am definitely more interested in Waka at this point. Uh, I think we can look at Nola. He struggled against Washington, started out super hot, and then kind of fell apart, allowing some home runs. We know the Dodgers, elite offense, big time upside in that offense, but we just saw Luzardo strike out a bunch of guys and dominate them. Uh, Nola, strong numbers overall last season. Obviously, the worry, as with Ober, um, gives up some home runs, which is definitely dangerous in this spot, but he is a ground ball pitcher with some K upside. The third best K percentage on this particular slate. So it's somebody that we definitely need to pay attention to. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think we end up with a pretty short um, pitcher pool, to be honest. Um, but let's take a look at the main slate at this point. I do think we end up with some better options on this particular slate. DeGrom, after looking pretty solid in his first start, going to offer plenty of upside. Tampa Bay's offense kind of started out hot at home in their AAA ballpark for the season, but I think DeGrom is in a strong spot. He did throw 73 pitches. I don't know if they're going to increase him a ton, um, but I could see him, being around 80 to 85 and maybe going 6 innings. But he's one that traditionally, even when he goes 5 innings, he has so much K upside that he makes a ton of sense. His K prop is 7.5, juices on the under. The only other person who's got a K prop over 5.5 would be Robbie Ray. So DeGrom just a dominating K prop on this particular slate. To me, just kind of head and shoulders above the rest. He's sitting as a minus 180 favorite. He's plus 135 to get the W, uh, which is tied with Nola for the overall day lead, and he's definitely in the lead for the main slate this evening. Taj Bradley always seems to have one inning where he just kind of falls apart a little bit, but always shows some upside. Obviously, Texas is a lot more difficult than Colorado was, but he's plus 300 to get the W because he is taking on DeGrom. But a 5.5 K prop. Game total is just 7.5 in this one. His outs prop is just 16.5, which with the uh, juice on the under, which is a little frustrating to see, especially just because we can assume a pitch increase, to around 90 to 95 pitches. So you'd think he should be good for 6+ innings, but there is some volatility. The next 4 pitchers on this list really are interesting to me. Robbie Ray, super volatile, but like I mentioned, K prop of 6.5, super strong, pitching in San Francisco. Uh, a great spot for him to pitch in. As you see, just 3 hits allowed in Cincinnati in a ballpark made for hitters, but obviously 2 home runs. That messes with your numbers. Game total in this one's 7.5 with juice on the under. Aside from the Cubs game, this would be the lowest total on the entire day of baseball. A lot of his other props aren't there yet, so I want to see what his win odds are, etc. But Robbie Ray, ton of upside. It's somebody I love to use in large field GPPs. Uh, Maybe he wouldn't work out all that well for this 250, but like the $15, I think Robbie Ray has just a ton of upside. Bryce Miller wasn't super dominant against the A's, wasn't terrible either. K prop of just 4.5, juices on the over. Win odds at plus 160, which isn't bad. A slight road dog, but it's pitching in this ballpark that really intrigues me enough as to why he's going to be in my pitcher pool for sure. Tanner Bybee, strong in his debut. K's weren't there, but Kansas City isn't really a huge strikeout team in general. Sitting as a minus 148 favorite. Game total is just 8, juices on the under. And his K prop right now sitting at 5.5 with juice on the over. I think he's definitely in play. We just saw Gavin Williams kind of struggle in this matchup, but Bybee certainly a more advanced pitcher than Gavin Williams. Definitely somebody we need to include. Brady Singer made his debut for Cincinnati and absolutely dominated against Texas. Uh, that was a big shock to me, that performance, but we have seen him get it done with Kansas City previously. I think he's in play. K prop 5.5 with juice on the under, but he is plus 170 to get the win. His outs props at 17.5, basically a pick 'em, so right around 6 innings. Just through 7. I do expect a little regression, but still, I think it is a good spot for Brady Singer. Uh, AJ Smith Shawver taking on Miami. He's not overly exciting, just a massive favorite at minus 230. Even with that, his win odds are just plus 165. K prop of 4.5, juices on the over. Uh, I think he's viable, but still, it's just not somebody I'm hurrying to jam in. Like, I think people are just going to automatically see Miami and want to go with him. Uh, he's going to be in my pool, but I'm not excited to play him over Bybee or Bryce Miller at this point. Um, JP Sears kind of interests me a little bit just because of the weather in Colorado, blowing in 42 degrees. Um, just kind of weather that we should be interested in pitching at this point. So, I mean, he racked up 7 Ks, obviously a big K matchup, but still, Colorado can strike out. So, I really do think that Sears is in play. K prop of 5.5, juices on the under. But there we have it. There's kind of the look at pitching on both slates. Some of the guys I'm interested in, some of the guys I'm kind of debating on. Guys I left out really aren't intriguing to me unless something changes. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at TFS Army. And if you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc. I'll put links in the description below. I believe today is the last day for the promo code First Pitch for 20% off monthly for life. So as always, Best of luck, everybody.